Welcome to episode 4 of Echoes from the Arena. Today is really untitled, but we're simply going to talk some Bills football and some hockey. But let's start with the Bills mandatory, or I'm sorry, was it non-mandatory organized team activities just
Hmm.
wrapped up. Josh Allen just got married. All is right in his world. He's in every other ad on television, reigning MVP. Dad, is he a question mark going into the playoffs or going into the new season?
Nope. I think Josh is all ready to go. He's primed and ready to go. He's a
And,
happy camper.
his playoff performances, I can't say that I would blame him for it for many of the playoff losses either. So my slip of the tongue there really meant nothing. But as we head into the season, where do you see strengths as far as the as positions are concerned? Just wanted to kind of chop it up a little bit as far as the Bills are concerned.
Okay, well, obviously, first and foremost, our Josh is the reigning MVP, so I feel our quarterback play is um, unquestionably
It's been
elite.
stellar and needs to stay that way for us to have a
Exactly,
chance.
exactly. Um, our I like our receiver room. I don't know if the Bills are done making some changes there or additions, I should say, but I
Hmm.
think I like our receiver room. I think we have a just good mix of receivers. I'm impressed with Keon Coleman's transformation as far as his body type. He seems to have put on a lot more muscle, so
Yeah.
hopefully that'll give him a little bit of a advantage going into the season. And I like the mix. I like the addition of who's the receiver that came from the
Well, you and
Browns?
I both like Elijah Moore, I think.
Elijah Moore.
Yeah.
Yes, I like Elijah Moore.
They have
I
him
like Palmer.
listed. They have more listed on RotoWire that I use when I do my fantasy drafts.
Hmm.
They have him listed as the fourth receiver on the depth chart. I That may be the case, but I think he's going to see the field a lot,
I agree. I
provided he
agree.
stays healthy. Uh, Let me just run down where ESPN has the depth chart. So this
Okay.
is by no means official because it did not really come from the team, but
All right.
obviously you've got Allen as the starter quarterback with Trubisky as the backup. Mike White is the third string. Um, I don't know that they would carry three into the season. I wonder if Mike White doesn't end up with I don't know, maybe a practice squad job
Hmm.
and
Yep.
stick around, or, maybe he goes and tries to make hay somewhere. Um, James Cook, and that's a conversation that we'll have in a minute. He's listed as the starter at running back, and then we would have Shakir, Coleman, and Palmer, three wide receiver with a one tight end set. Though let's remember the Bills run a lot of two tight end and
Right. Right.
go two tight ends deep as far as I think starter talent is concerned. They have Knox as the starter at tight end. I think it really depends on the formation. Gilliam is the only fullback. No surprises as far as the line's concerned. Would be the same starters as last year: Dawkins, Edwards, McGovern, Torrance, and Brown.
Right.
And then on the defensive side, I think is where we would start to see some changes. Although the names that are going to pop up on the when you go one deep are not going to be that much different. But when you go two deep, there are some additional names there. Rousseau and Bosa being the ends, but can Joey Bosa stay healthy? That remains to be seen. The tackles being Daquan Jones and Oliver, those are the two that uh, were very impactful, 2 years ago?
Yep. Yep.
Um, and then you got Milano, Bernard, Williams. So no one knew, but I think Bernard's kind of really coming into his own. He's just a much more cerebral player than I know I gave him credit for initially. I just saw an undersized linebacker, but he's very instinctual. Uh, you know, a big brain out there on the defense.
Right, right.
We talked earlier, maybe it was it yesterday, about what the corners look like. I think you're right, Benford, Hairston. I think you put the first round pick there across from
Hmm.
Benford,
Yep,
who is
yep.
quietly made himself one of the best corners in the league. And then they have Rapp and Hamlin as the two deep with Taron Johnson as the nickelback. So not really a lot of surprises there, especially on defense. But when we get deeper into it, as far as let's go back to the running back situation. So we have mini camp starting next week, and probably not going to see our starting running back. And what do we think that the impact of that may be?
First off, if you got the depth chart in front of you,
I do.
I'm assuming it's Ty Johnson, Ray Davis,
Other way
uh,
around.
or Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, and then we have
I
Frank
imagine
Gore
I imagine
Jr. on the
Ty
team.
John I imagine Ty Johnson would be the third down back.
Right.
Though he would be your first choice between Davis and Johnson as the third down would be Johnson. We have Frank Gore Jr. We have Darrington Evans. We have some guys I've never heard of, but
Okay.
you know
Okay.
what we were talking about the other day is it just gives somebody more reps.
Yeah, I really think I like what I saw last season from Ray Davis. I thought when he was on the field, many times things happened. Um,
He seems to be a one cut guy.
he's a one-cut guy, and I don't know yet about his ability to pick up the blitz. Usually with the young backs, that's a problem. I think it's a problem with Cook, and I think that's why there's a possibility of why Cook isn't on the field on third downs. I mean, Ty Johnson's in. Ty Johnson
Well,
is more versatile, I think, and that's why he sees the field in third downs, or if we're
I
going for it on fourth down.
I have a few thoughts on this. I think Ty Johnson is just a more flexible back. He can do more things, maybe not to the ceiling
Hmm.
of
Hmm.
Cook or Davis, but he's just kind of like a Swiss Army knife out there. As far as Davis is concerned, I like the one cut. I like his one cut, get downhill, get that, pick up the yardage that you're going to get. And
Hmm.
I've always kind of liked that and preferred that in a running back. Um, Cook is a similar type of back. I do want to recognize the fact that so could sit out because of his contract.
Right.
Now, I don't know what he's making. Granted, I probably could have looked that up considering I have an internet machine in front of me, but I didn't. But, you know, he's looking for numbers somewhere in the neighborhood of, I imagine, what Saquon's making. And I think you and I are both in agreement that he's not Saquon, but he's worth more than probably what he's making.
I believe, if I remember correctly, and I might have saw this morning when I was
And if you
doing,
can talk long enough, I can look it up.
yeah, well, I think he's making roughly 5 million a year
Oh,
on his rookie deal. So I see no purpose for him to sit out,
let me see.
especially if he wants a contract comparable to a Saquon Barkley contract next season.
Mhm.
Not that he's going to get the numbers that Saquon gets. He won't get the numbers Derrick Henry gets. Like you and I talked, he's not an every down back. Not necessarily his fault. The offense is predicated around a couple backs getting a lot of touches. So
Mhm.
I don't know, I don't know where his head's at right now.
I do.
I
I'm
do.
looking at his contract right now.
Okay.
Okay, so you're right. He is making over 5 million this year. Now, the previous 3 years combined, he made half of that.
Okay. Okay.
What I'm also seeing is he's 26. So he's already 26. He's this is his time to cash in.
Right.
Now, I don't think he's worth 15 million a year. I think he could see a light increase to maybe 7 or 8. But like I said the other day, I wouldn't do that for 4 years. especially at 26. You know, you're looking at 3 years tops.
Yeah,
As-
yeah.
So next year he would be an unrestricted free agent too.
Right, right. That's what
Uh,
I'm saying. Would he chance it, not playing this year, holding out, and then going into a free agent year? I don't know if that would be the brightest thing to do. I, according to Adam Schefter, and I was reading him this morning, he feels that there's a possibility that Cook might also hold out once training camp rolls around, which again is
that's a risk that he's
which
willing
is a
to take.
which is a
That's
distraction, A.
yeah.
And I just find historically that doesn't really help anybody. It doesn't help him. The Bills, you know, obviously we have backs that I have confidence in. I don't know if they're a James Cook.
Well, none of them are Cook. I don't think any of them are. Oop, okay.
Are we back?
And we're back. Possible shutdown by maybe some of James Cook's people, maybe some of the Bills people. Um, I think that James Cook is a very valuable back. He is a home run hitting type of back. I think he's worth a raise. I think he's worth an investment of 3 years. But I don't think he's in the same class as Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley. So find the middle ground there.
I think what might be affecting his thought process here is, maybe his brother, Dalvin Cook, is putting some ideas, but I think what might be the situation is I think the Bills and Brandon Beane they have
They have a policy kind of.
yeah,
I don't know
policy
what I
that,
would call it.
well, it's let's draft a back, let's get him through his rookie deal, and then
Mhm.
let's move on with somebody else. Um, Another draft choice. Uh, and so maybe Cooks sees that happening. I don't
But
know.
in this case, this is not Devin Singletary.
No, he's much better than Devin
I mean, I think
Singletary.
Devin Singletary is an NFL running back, but I think James Cook's just a better back. Now, he certainly needs to catch the football more, and he needs to stop
Yep.
dropping touchdowns when he's
Yeah.
wide the F open. But um, I'm hoping that that comes to some sort of resolution. It is not too much of a distraction, but I think they can go into the season without him. And for every win they pick up on a schedule that looks to be relatively easy, at least, I know that's before we've even touched the field.
All right. On paper,
For every
yes.
win, that puts more pressure on him to probably come back,
Yeah.
show
Yeah.
his worth again, because, if the Bills are putting up wins and showing that they don't need him to win, that's not great for his case either.
I was not aware, you brought up a good point, that he's 26 already. So, he is reaching that point where I can see where he would want a longer term deal.
And
Just
you
some
got to get
security
paid.
down the road.
You got to get paid.
Yes, you got to get paid. And you got to get paid. And he deserves to get paid. I'm not saying
I
that. I just don't think he's going to get the money he thinks he's going to get.
And I think it's interesting the difference that this conversation would sound like if he were 24.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Those 2 years are so significant. I didn't know he was 26 already. So that does kind of change some of my
Well, it
view, but
does.
I did also think that he's due something. Um, just, you a good compromise where neither side is totally happy.
I could see maybe 8, 9 million a year,
2 years
push it to 10,
with it
maybe. I don't know.
for 2 years with an option for a third player option. I don't know. I don't know what it looks like, but I would like to see that put to bed.
But
We have much bigger fish to fry this year.
exactly. exactly. And it won't be done this year. I just don't see it happening this year. I don't think that the money's there
I don't know that they
to
have the money
to
right
do it
now.
this year. And I was reading an article yesterday regarding another player, which we probably need to, because whoever the author was, and I don't remember who it was
Hmm.
talking about Cook is not a priority in his book because the guy that really needs an extension, especially after the success we had this year with our old line, is McGovern.
Mm.
I believe he's on his last year, so
Let me
he
check.
needs
I just had it
extension.
pulled up.
And he's solidified, taking nothing away from Mitch Morse, but McGovern solidified that line. Where
Yeah.
what did
We've
Josh have the least number of sacks this year?
it was a very low number.
I know it was his best year being not sacked, but what, was it a league? What was his rate? What was his ranking the league as
I
far as sacks?
I think I thought it was first because I thought it was like something like 12.
Because he went one or two games without even being touched.
Yeah.
I remember. So yeah, I think McGovern
Why are there
is our
two Connor
next
McGoverns who are
priority.
centers in the league?
I know.
It's annoying. Yes, next year could be um a void year. But he would be an unrestricted free agent.
That's next year.
Hmm. He
So we could
makes
franchise him if
he
we
makes
had to.
5.3 this year.
Okay.
But a lot of signing bonus on this, I think. So his cap hit is this year it's 9.3 is his cap hit. He had a
Okay.
backloaded deal. But NFL center 28, it's a different position. Um, 28 for center, I don't feel like is that's where I should be right in your prime.
He's durable. I
Mm.
don't think
Knock on
he
wood.
missed any time at all. Yeah, knock on
Mhm.
wood. So and so anyway, and there's other priorities, but certainly I think I'm sure James Cook, if a deal comes, it's going to be after this season. I don't see it happening before the season. I don't know when
Mhm.
exactly.
I
The
mean,
the
they
the
could. Well, you're right though, because even if they did one of those deals where they backloaded it, it would still be the cap hit would still be.
right.
I don't know that. I don't
I mean,
know
he
that.
could still reconfigure some
Yeah,
contracts and try to find the money, but I don't know, and I don't know. You know, do
but
you
do they
want to
want to
sign
do
him?
that? Because what if they don't? What if they get into the season they find out that hey, your receiver room's not as complete as you thought it was. Now, you and I
Oh
both
yeah.
don't think that that's going to be the case, but
Well, I don't think it is, but it could. You never know. And
or you
then,
have an injury and now
right, well,
you have to.
injuries is the biggest issue.
Yeah, and that's something we can't predict. So let's talk about the receiver room. I think there's oh, I just had it pulled up. I think there's five yeses in there. And
Yep.
I'm wondering if they're going to keep a sixth. Because I don't see a special teams like a crazy great special teams player there. I don't know about Laviska Shenault.
Well, I think Chanel is supposed to be our kick punt returner.
But I'm thinking like who are the gunners?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't see that on the roster, so I don't know if that if somebody jumps out in training camp, maybe that person takes a sixth wide receiver position. But I got Shakir Coleman, Palmer, Moore, Curtis Samuel. I know some people might argue with Curtis Samuel as the gonna gonna make the team,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I still think that's a guy who when he finally got some health was an effective player, especially over the middle.
Yeah. He had some really big plays last year. So no, I think he'll be
Important in
around.
the Chiefs game.
I also think we'll see more of
They want yards after the catch.
yeah.
So that's what he provides. And hopefully with some of these, and yes, I know hope's not a plan, but with players like Palmer and Moore, they get more of that. I think my biggest concern is size
Yeah.
at receiver, with Coleman being the only guy who really presents a matchup problem from a size perspective, unless you're counting Kincaid, which you probably could,
I do think we'll see more Kincaid in a flex position.
like flexed out
Sure.
from the
Yeah.
like a tight
Yeah.
end and then yeah, in motion,
Much,
probably.
much like Casey does with Kelsey. Yeah. So I see a lot of I see because I think we need to get him on the field, but we also I think because I was thinking about a few seasons ago when you know Josh looked Dawson knocks his way a lot and Knox is many times open and he makes so he can go deep. He can beat people deep. Scores touchdowns. So I do believe I would like to see Knox become more get more into the offense this year versus last year. I
He
just
gets
don't think
lost.
he does get lost,
He
and
gets lost
I think he needs to be he needs to be that target again, and that would really cause all kinds of matchup issues if
because now it's how do you get enough pass defenders on the field to
exactly
stop
exactly
that, and then that's when you start running the ball.
yep
That's when I want to see QB power or QB sweep when,
yep.
they've got a dime package on the field. So,
And you
hmm.
will. I'm sure we haven't even seen a fraction of Joe Brady's playbook.
Well,
I
I'm
mean, I
hoping.
mean, I mean, I'm sure he's got a few other things up his sleeve, which we'll see this year.
So I was going to ask, who do you think ends up in the receiver room? But I think you and I are kind of simpatico on
I think the ones
where
we
that
named will be
is.
there.
The sixth, it could be any one of some guys I've heard of, some guys I haven't, some guys probably undrafted free agents.
Yeah.
Um, let's bounce to the defensive side of the ball though, because that's where, frankly, our playoffs have ended on the defensive side of the ball.
Yep. Yep.
So we invested a lot in the offseason as far as draft capital into the defensive side of the ball. You don't really see that in the one deep, but you would see that in the two deep depth chart and even three deep depth chart. They've got Dwayne Carter three deep. That guy's on the field, and we know with the Bills, if you're a defensive lineman, you're not going to be on the bench all game.
No, you're going to roll.
They
He's
are
going
going
to
to
roll
rotate.
8 players.
Yeah.
He's going to roll 8 players. That's the way they play it, and that's that they've done it since day one with McDermott, and he's going to do it again this year. So yeah, we really need 8 players that can contribute game in and game out.
Hmm.
So I think those players are in place. I think the two rookies that came in, I think they both have
We're
really
talking
good
about
pedigree.
Landon Jackson and Deion Walker. Landon Jackson
Yes,
being
yes.
the defensive end from Arkansas. I said the other day 6'7". My apologies. He's 6'6". 264. And Deion Walker is, I'm sorry, he's 6'7", 331
Yeah, he's a
pounds.
big dude. He's a big
He's a
dude.
very large man. Would love to see him eating space up, eating blockers up in the middle there because I feel like we haven't had a guy who just eats blockers for an entire season in years.
Right. We have it.
Like, I'm talking like Ted Washington eats blockers, you know? Like,
Because
you
many
have to
years,
double team, like guys that you have to double team.
because many years, well, not many years, but there was times when, you know, uh, Oliver would be playing the one technique because of
I-
need, but he's a three technique.
he's just not
He's
that
not,
player.
he's not built. He doesn't have the mass that you need to play the one technique. So with him at three, and would it be Jones at the one?
Jones at the one, he's listed right now. It's
Yeah,
who
yeah.
the starter would be. Yeah.
Um,
Jones at the one, Oliver at the three, bookend by Rousseau and Bosa. But the two deep would be Landon Jackson and Epineza. But we got to remember that they're going to keep five ends because Michael, is it Heshed or Hoked?
I think it's hashed. Yeah, I think it's hashed. And he'll be back, what,
He will be
after
back
week six
after week 4, week
or
6.
four? Okay.
I'm not sure, but he's going to play.
No,
He's
he's
got
going
to
to
get on
play.
the
No,
field.
he's going to definitely play.
Definitely going to play. So I could see them keeping as many as 10 guys here on the defensive line.
Yeah, yeah,
Here's 10 deep right here, right?
right.
Rousseau, Jackson, Heshed or Hecht, uh, Bosa, Epineza. That's five defensive ends. Then defensive tackles, Daquan Jones, Ed Oliver, Deion Walker, who you just drafted, TJ Sanders, Dwayne Carter.
DJ Sanders is, yeah, another one that impressed me.
Hmm.
Saw him play a few times last year with South Carolina. A pretty impressive player. But
Not
no,
as
I
big as the guy from Kentucky. He's
no,
six
not
four,
that
two
big.
ninety seven. A little shorter, but I also happen to think that defensive tackles who are a little bit shorter might have a little bit of a leg up, so to
And it,
speak, as far as leverage is concerned.
and as we know from experience, unfortunately, you want to, you're probably going to have to keep that number because of the fact that players get nicked up and they can't go every week. And so, and we are, we're steadfast on rotating those players in. So
Mhm.
I see most likely we'll keep 10 defensive linemen.
And then it'll be interesting what they do as far as if they keep 10 or maybe even 11 defensive linemen. Maybe they sneak somebody onto the practice squad of whoever is left outside
Hmm.
of those that I already named.
Right, right.
If they squeeze those folks in, or they keep 10 on that line, it'd be interesting to see where they making the cuts in the rest of the roster
That's true. Yeah.
because you got Hairston at corner, Benford at corner, and then two deep would be Dane Jackson, who is back, and Tre'Davious White, and then Jamarcus Ingram being your three deep. Um, and then as far as safeties are concerned, Cole Bishop, Jordan Hancock, never heard of him. It was our fifth round pick from Ohio State.
Okay, I remember seeing his name on the draft list. Okay. I
He's a
don't know anything
corner,
about
but
him.
they
Don't know
have
anything
him
about him.
listed
Yeah.
as a safety. I don't know what the accuracy of that is. So I guess we'll find out in minicamp, really, who's gonna show,
Like you
so to
brought up a
speak.
good point yesterday regarding when we were talking about Tre'Davious and his, I think he'll be it. I know he's got a couple injuries, but or
But
he's had
this
a,
is a defense that he
uh,
knows.
he knows the defense.
Mhm.
He's a good corner. He's still a good corner. Um, but possibility, could you roll him back to play safety, if need be? So, I think he's versatile enough. He's also, I think, brought aboard to mentor
Hmm.
our young corners, principally Hairston.
Yeah, I wonder if we see them try that in training camp,
Well, you might see it. You might see it.
just to get more experience on the field at a position like safety where you really don't have much at all. Your most experienced safety is Taylor Rapp.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
Now, with regards to Hairston,
mhm.
have we ever had a corner with that speed?
No.
I think
Mm,
was he
yes, we did.
4.4? Was he a 4.4
So I
40
think sub
in the
four
combine
four,
this year?
sub 4.4. Yes, we did. We had Leotis McKelvin.
Okay. Okay.
Leotis McKelvin
There's a
had a
name from the
very
past.
fast 40 time.
Okay. Okay.
But let's find Maxwell Hairston's 40 time though.
I want to say 4.34 or something. It was ridiculous.
All right, actually faster than that. It was 4.28.
Woo! Okay.
Uh
That's
okay,
close to
so have we
world-class
had
speed.
somebody that fast? I don't know. I think Leotis was I thought Leotis was sub 4.4, but yeah. Let's see. He was a 4.39.
Okay. Well,
Yeah. So
Still fast. That's still very
very,
fast.
very fast, but as fast as Maxwell Hairston was at the combine, no, we've never had no corners that quick.
I would say Hairston is bordering on world-class speed with that.
Yeah, because I mean, when you're closing in on 4.2, now you're getting into territory where anything below that, I think, is you're starting to get into world-class speed
Yeah, you're getting your Olympic sprinters
or like,
are
yeah,
running that.
people that are qualifying.
But a little different because you're not necessarily, always running in a straight line. You're
Correct.
making breaks with receivers. So,
Getting hit,
but
stopping, starting.
I think he'll be there. I think he'll be starting week one.
Now he's a little on the smaller side,
Yeah, he is. No, he is.
but do we know what his like his vertical was?
I don't know, but I would guess with that type of speed, he probably has a
Probably
good vertical
really,
too.
really, yeah, he's
Because
got to be so athletic.
his quads have got to be a good size. So,
Broad jump, he was in the 88th percentile. Vertical jump, he was in the 87th percentile. Obviously, the 40-yard dash, he was in the 99th percentile. Uh, what was he at for vertical? Oh, almost 40, 39 and a half.
okay.
So, even at, what is he, 5'10", maybe?
Yeah, he's about 5'10", yeah.
He's dunking,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
easily. Now they have him listed at 5'11". That'd be even better.
Okay. He's a good sized corner.
Yeah, I thought a little light, but uh, I love the speed. I like
Yeah.
the speed a
Oh,
lot.
definitely.
And he's not going to have to go against the team's best receiver. That's
Right. Right.
Benford.
That's Bedford side. Yes.
And hopefully we're getting to the quarterback fast enough where we don't have to worry about it as much.
That would be
Uh,
nice
yeah.
because that was a problem in years past.
Well, I think almost every what example of us being knocked out of playoffs recently, I feel like has really been defensive.
Well, it has been defensive, yeah. It really has.
If we could just stop the other team, stop other teams, and just, I know it's so simple, just stop the other team and just keep scoring. But I don't know. You now have the reigning NFL MVP.
Yep.
Go out and do it.
So it's time. It's time. I feel good
Before,
about this year.
yeah, there's a pumpkin that's outside of our hallway that I'm going to throw out, or I may have already threw out, and I
Right?
think it's a good omen. I think there was a hex on something, but I felt some relief tossing it out. Um,
I just have
anything?
a
What else you
feeling this
got?
year.
Yeah.
I just
What
have
do
a
you got?
feeling. I tell you my feeling, and I had it this year, and I already told my wife that I do, I really sincerely believe the Bills will win the Super Bowl this year. And I had the same feeling in 2021 regarding the Atlanta Braves. In 2020, the Braves were eliminated in the National League final.
By the
It was the
Dodgers?
COVID year, but they were eliminated by the Dodgers in 7 games.
I remember that.
And and the we were just coming out of COVID. So game 6, which was in LA,
Hmm.
uh, they had a watch party at the Truist Park, the Braves Stadium.
Hmm.
But they only brought in like 5,000 people. So you were spread out and there were people on the field so that they kept people away, but they had the game on the big scoreboard. And the Braves happened to win that game, but they lost the next game. But after they were knocked out of the series, I told my wife, I said, I'm going to buy season tickets for next year. And she was kind of perplexed. Okay, well, why? And I said, because you and I both want to see a World Series run. And I have a feeling the Braves will win the series next year. And we kind of just, kind of, okay, fine. But what'd they do? They went out and did it. And
Hmm.
I should have bet on the Braves in Vegas, but I didn't. But anyway,
Well,
I just had the same feeling that things seem to be falling in place. And I just feel the Bills. it's fine. I think it's finally here. I really think this team has been through a lot of trials and tribulations, and as you know, winning anything, World Series, Stanley Cup, Super Bowl, everything's got to fall in place, and that's not easy.
No.
One
I
little
just
thing out of
hate,
place,
yeah,
and
but I
you don't
hate
get there.
seeing it fall into place for other teams so many
I
times.
know. I very frustrating, and I
You
just
can't
think
tell
the
me
time
stuff
is
like this
right.
if
So
you don't actually think it.
I know, but I think it. I think it. I just think this is going to be the year.
I
This is
remember
going to be
having
the
a
year.
feeling in 2003 when the tournament started, the
Oh
Syracuse
yeah, that's
run.
right. That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
was a feeling of calmness that I just had a feeling they weren't going to lose. Now, when it got tight, granted, I did revert back to superstition. But um, anything else on the Bills?
What about our? I think we're good as far as our kicking game.
Well,
Don't
we'll
know
see
they.
about
I
that.
don't know that punter that what they brought in. Don't know much about him.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about punters.
And then
Well,
Tyler
if things go
Tyler
well, we're not going to be
Bass.
punting much anyway.
I hope not. I hope not. And I want to see Tyler Bass have a good season. Although he had some misses last year, but when he had to make the kick, he did.
He
So
was making them when he had to make them.
I
So
guess that's all. When it comes to kickers, that's all that's important.
that's right.
So
Let's
okay,
pivot. Let's pivot.
okay, okay.
Let's pivot to Lord Stanley's Cup. So we do have the finals going on right now. As of the time of this taping and probably airing, um, we're through two games. It is the series is tied 1-1
Right.
between the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. So we've got a traditional hockey market and a newer Southern hockey market in air quotes. Only when they're really good. I don't know. You live down there. You know
I
better
do
than I
want
would.
to. I do want to. Well, I can address that, but I do want to just preface this whole discussion about the fact that the viewership is down. Now, I certainly don't see that with, I think, Edmonton, when you have arguably the best player on the planet, and maybe the second best player on the planet.
Two of
I
the
don't
two of the best three players,
I
probably.
don't know why. I don't know why it would be down, and you have the defending Stanley Cup champion. Now, I do think the even the Panthers are not the most popular team in the state. That would be the Tampa Bay team. Much better fan support. Hockey in Tampa is very impressive, and it's really much like a northeastern city. I mean, the people come out to watch them. The arena's sold out every game.
Well, it's a lot. You're talking about a lot of transplants, I would imagine,
A lot of
too. So
transplants and just
people that appreciate.
very, very good hockey. Um, so I don't know why, I don't know why the viewership would be down because the first two games were amazing.
I'm guessing people here are not watching it as much because I think people are burned out with hockey here right now.
Well, I'm sure that's true in Buffalo. Yes, yes.
Now, I knew that we were going to be talking about it, so I have gone out of my way to watch it. Granted, I probably would have anyway because I do like to watch Connor McDavid. I've just
I
been
would have
so
watched
kind
it for
of
that.
aggravated by the hometown team that it has affected my viewership of hockey in general. But McDavid's worth the price of admission.
Without question.
Um, you know, he had an assist last night. I think you know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, he hit the assist on the game winning goal in game one
That was amazing.
was
That was
absurd.
really amazing. The
Uh,
and even I was, the intermission show on TNT with
that asshat Wayne Gretzky.
yeah, he was on, but I enjoyed listening to Lundqvist
Yeah,
because he
the
made
left
some.
side of the panel's a bunch of idiots.
Yeah, they're a bunch of
Right side of the
clowns.
panel's
Isn't that
a
the
little
whole
more
one?
intelligent.
But
He's a
but
butthead.
but Hank was saying how, even with the fact that, like last night, both goalies in regulation gave up 4 goals.
Hmm.
And I guess if you looked on the score sheet where they give up 4 goals, that's not great goaltending, but you saw the quality of
Of the
shots they
shots, they were, yeah.
saved, and then the quality of shots that they needed to take to beat these goalies. They both played, out of their minds. It was really a well-played game, I thought. I did
They,
think, however, in game two, the uh, the Oilers squandered a lot of opportunities in the first period.
they had a chance to really put the screws to the
Yeah, they
Panthers
could have been up
going
four or
in.
five
They
nothing,
and
or I'm sorry, 4-5 or 4-5 to 1
yeah,
or 2 going into the second period.
and Bobrovsky, I think, had something to do with some of that, and I think they just couple missed a couple of areas that professionals normally don't miss.
No, exactly, exactly.
And they had a power play there too, where it felt like if they scored, that roof was going to come in that building, and they didn't, and they couldn't find that. They found the late goal, but they couldn't find another overtime goal.
Right, right.
Despite a couple of really good chances in the first overtime, and I didn't see Brad Marchand score because I fell asleep, and I don't like him anyway.
Well, little Brad Marchand got behind the defense on
Again.
3 occasions. So he got on for the goal,
Hmm.
the shorty that they scored,
Yeah, he slithered on for the shorthanded goal.
and then he was stopped on a breakaway in the first overtime, where he was again behind the defense. Defense was flat-footed, and then the winning goal was a breakaway. I mean, the defender did get his stick in there, but just couldn't make the play. So 3 times he got behind the defense. So that's something they need to
They gotta
pay
clean that up.
attention. They got to clean that up. These guys got to these guys got to get back. They got to be back because he
Now,
will. He he gets under your skin. He's the typical rat there was a player. The reason I call him a rat, there was a player. And I believe he was playing in the 80s and 90s called Kenny Linsman. I don't know if you remember the name.
no,
You
but
might have been
that's offensive to
too
rats.
young, but Kenny Linsman was called the rat by his teammates because he would get under your skin. And Marchand is a rat.
Mhm.
However, he's got skills. He does have hockey skills, so
Yes, unfortunately, I
he
have to
can do
admit as
damage.
much.
He can do damage. So you want to learn a little bit about the Stanley Cup?
Lord Stanley's Cup, tell me more.
Okay, so to preface this little presentation, the sixth Governor General of Canada was the Right Honorable Sir Frederick Arthur Stanley.
Okay.
He was, however, called Freddie by Queen Victoria,
So
who was
his
the
name is,
queen at the time.
if the Queen calls you Freddie, your name's Freddie.
We're talking we're talking late 1800s now.
Hmm.
Okay, Lord Stanley was introduced to the game of ice hockey in 1889 while visiting the renowned Montreal Winter Carnival, which was quite an event back in the day. He took in a game between the Montreal Victorias and the Amateur Athletic Association. After gaining an appreciation for the game, Stanley decided it would be appropriate to award a Challenge Cup. And the trophy would be something which the winning team would get and hold on for the whole
For the
year
whole year.
until the next championship, much like what happens with the Stanley Cup now.
I, I like that because I always feel like it's like the World Wrestling Federation. Like I get to hold this thing
That's
and I get
right.
to wear it around and I get to party with it until somebody takes it off of me.
Exactly. So there you go. So at the time, the official name of the trophy was the Dominion Challenge Trophy.
Mm.
It was aptly named since at the time, 1892, Canada was still a dominion, which means it's a self-governing territory within the British Empire. The cup was cast in a silver and nickel alloy, decorated with a wavy seashell pattern and a plain band on which was etched from Stanley of Preston.
And that's the current cup.
That's the current cup
The current
with
cup.
a number of bands added, yes.
Yes, quite a few.
The cup, as it is now affectionately known, it was first awarded in 1893. The first recipients were the Montreal Amateur Athletic Association. So that's a brief history of the cup, and the cup is now synonymous with just,
Per
backbreaking
perseverance,
play and
determination,
perseverance,
hard work,
exactly. You've got to win 16 games
and
to win the
luck.
cup
Some
and
a
some
little
lucky
bit of luck.
bounces.
Yeah.
And yeah, guys playing injured.
You can't have guys getting staph infections from their knee pads, their shin
Exactly.
pads, when you're on a Stanley Cup run of your lifetime.
I remember uh, 2 years ago, right after the cup and right after the Stanley Cup final ended, it was Florida that year, and it escapes me who won the cup that year.
It wasn't Florida. It was
It
the other
wasn't
team.
Florida.
I
It
don't know
wasn't
who it
Florida.
was. I
I
don't
forget who
remember.
the other team was. I should know this because it just happened really a couple of years ago. But I remember running into, not literally, but seeing him at Logan Airport, Matt Tkachuk,
Mm.
who it looked like he was in pain. And it came out after the game that
He was in pain.
he had played, yes, he had played the last few games with a cracked sternum. So, as we both know, hockey
Imagine,
players are a different breed.
imagine doing anything with a cracked sternum.
That would be hard to do. That would be difficult. So anyway, uh, a couple tidbits. The cup. Oh, I'm sorry, I already said that. Um, in 1924, the
We'll take that out in
Canadians,
post.
yes, the Canadians won the cup. The cup was placed in the trunk of one of the players' cars, and
A
one flat.
jalopy of some kind,
Yes,
probably
exactly.
back
Since we're
then.
talking 1924,
Hmm.
one flat tire later, it was left on a snowbank for quite a while. And it wasn't until hours later that the cup was found,
God knows
recovered.
how it was desecrated in that time.
Yes, but it was recovered, safe and sound. And then again in 1962, after the Toronto Maple Leafs won the cup,
Hmm.
someone brought it to a post-cup post-cup winning party, and the next day it was found at the site of the party at the bottom of a swimming pool. And how it got there, we don't know, but it was no worse
I
for
wonder if
wear.
they threw it in the pool just so that the chlorine would wash off whatever
Uh,
was on it,
who
whatever
knows? I
uh,
know.
you know, booze
And,
was on
and
it.
I've heard it was at one time it was used for a flower pot. Someone ate cereal out of
That's
it.
happened a few times
So
recently.
it's just a cup. The nice thing about the cup, and I'm not sure if I do believe, I don't know if others can have a day with the cup, but I know all players,
Hmm.
coaches,
Yep.
trainers, and equipment people have a day with the cup. They may have the cup and, show it to their friends, have a party. I do know the cup, unfortunately, was never won by the Sabres, but it was in Buffalo often when Scotty Bowman had his day with the cup when he
Yes, because he
was
lives here.
coaching the Red
Red
Wings
Wings.
because he was still living here.
Hmm.
So there you go. So
It's
that's a little bit about the
133.
Stanley Cup.
It's 133 years old.
It's
Or
a great
years
old
old.
trophy. It's a great trophy. And have you been to the Hockey Hall of Fame? Have you seen the cup?
With you, Dad.
Oh, with me? Okay. That's good. How'd you feel when you saw the cup? Because
Well, I knew I wasn't supposed to touch it, so I just tried to not get that close to it.
I just was, I have but when I first saw it, it was like it was like exhilaration. Like this thing was alive, and it was just
I'll be honest, it
it
didn't have
was
that
it's an
effect on me.
amazing trophy, and I don't know
Well,
what yeah,
I
I don't know.
think the one there that had more of an effect on me, I know it's not as important, but it's still important, is the Hart Trophy, just because it's like
Okay, yeah,
a
yeah.
heart. It's like you guys didn't make a heart, you made an actual heart. Okay. Do you know anything about the engravers of the trophy?
I do not. I do not know anything about
So
the engravers.
the engravers of the Stanley Cup um, are Boffey Silversmiths of Montreal.
Hmm.
Doug Boffey, the owner, engraved the cup himself for a number of years up until 1988. And since
Okay.
1988, I believe it's been the same person, a Louise Saint-Jacques of Boffey Silversmiths, has been the engraver since then. She uses stencils and a hammer to manually engrave each name on the cup, which
Now,
is pretty
e- e-
incredible.
every player's on the cup. Is are the coaches' names on the cup, or just the players?
I think they're right.
They,
They've got
I
to
would
be.
think they would be. I would think they would be, but I'm curious because I've never seen the cup. Well, I have seen the cup close up, but I really haven't. I couldn't
A
remember,
select every year since 1924, a select portion of the winning players, coaches, and management and club staff names are engraved on its
Oh, okay.
bands.
Wow. Okay.
However, there's not enough room to include all the players and non-players, so some names must be omitted. So the coaches are definitely getting on there.
Yeah, they're getting on there.
Yeah. Thoughts on the series so far?
Well, like we were saying, I think it's an even series. I think it's probably going to go like all the way, all 7 games. I think I think you're going to see, as far as Edmonton's concerned, I think you're going to see the best out of McDavid and Draisaitl
I mean,
because they are they are what
he apparently picked up a little injury before game one, but I do not see any
who's that,
different.
McDavid?
Yeah,
Hmm.
I
I
don't
don't
see
see anything with
him.
him.
I don't see him any slower.
His acceleration is seems to be there. His just the hands that he had just last night at that goal. The hands, getting through those 3 defensemen or those 2 or 3 players from the Panthers are
Now
amazing.
I think, no surprise, are both rooting for the Oilers at this point because I just want a traditional hockey market to win the
Right.
cup.
Well, that's my
But
feeling too.
also, we have to admit right now that they don't have the momentum. Florida's going back to Florida with,
Hmm. With
having
momentum,
split.
yes.
Uh, so they have the home ice advantage now. So Edmonton's got to really grab one of these next two, at least.
Well,
Uh,
they're certainly getting the opportunities,
yes.
but
Well,
they're
as
also
Edmonton needs to button up their defense, Florida needs to button up their defense as well
they do.
because they're giving up a lot of chances, and players of the talent of McDavid or Draisaitl are not going to miss those kinds of quality chances that often.
I am looking for a little more, there was a lot of pushing, shoving, trash talking after every stoppage of play last night. But I'm looking forward to the little bit of the old time hockey,
Yeah, it's going to
which
get
I think
nasty.
it does rear its head come the playoff time, and certainly in the final, it's going to be. You can see it brewing. It's definitely brewing.
And then I have a question for you. I I like the fact that McDavid does not shy away from that play.
Right? Oh, he doesn't. He
I
doesn't.
He seems to actually kind of like it. And he will throw a hit. He will finish checks too. And actually, I have two questions. A 2 day break between games two and three, who does that help?
It's a good question. Um,
I think Florida has the momentum. I think a 2 day break helps the Oilers.
yeah, I would have to agree with that.
The Oilers
Yeah,
are top heavy.
yeah, I would
So
have to
I
agree
think
with that.
they have the top two players in the series, and then probably the next five players are Florida players as far as like best players in the series. Both
Right, right.
goaltenders have been good. Um, they've seen a lot of shots. I don't know if the numbers would back that up, but I imagine the shots at goal, not necessarily the shots on goal, have to be, I would imagine, it's very high. I mean, even shots on goal last night were high.
Have you had a chance to look at the analytics of the shots coming from the prime shooting area?
No, but I
What
would
was
be
what,
interested to see that.
was that what's that called? The Fenwick number? Or
Oh no, Fenwick. We talked about Fenwick close, wasn't it? Which is like your plus minus or something when you're within a goal, when the game's within
oh,
a
okay,
goal or
okay,
tied.
oh, okay, okay.
Or, I haven't looked up any of that stuff in quite some time.
I have to look at that because I'm curious on the quality of shots that are uh, that they're taking. Like you said, even the ones that miss the net, are they in scoring areas? Which I think a lot of there's been a lot of shots down low and and a lot of quality chances.
You know what? There's a stat that I just thought of that I don't know right now how to even find it, but um, expected goals.
Okay.
Expected
How
goal.
is that stat figured?
That's I think that's a statistic that is figured based on the shots on goal and the quality of shots on goal. So like
Okay.
your expected goals, the Oilers might have had an expected goals last night of 6.4, 6.5, but they only scored 4 goals.
Okay.
Meaning
Okay.
in that case, Bobrovsky stood on his head.
So that gives you the number of okay, that gives you the
There's a
numbers
number
that
of
they
goals they
should have
probably should have
scored
scored.
if okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
hmm
That's a good stat. That would be a good stat.
I would like to know what it was last night. Um,
Well, with the quality chances in the first period alone,
yeah.
for that stat, like you said, was probably six, certainly five or six. Even it might even be
I would
another goal.
think I would think that it would be, but I'm gonna have to do a little bit of I'm gonna have to do a little bit of research because I thought I'd be able to find it pretty quickly, but I can't. Because I can get like well, I can get, it looks like I can find like Premier League, but
Yeah,
not NHL. So I'll have to look into that a little bit, but it really feels like Edmonton let one slip away last night.
they did. I agree.
So
Well, they did.
um so momentum right now we think is with Florida, I think.
Well, mine's with Florida, but I do believe the 2-day break is good for. I do agree with you on the fact that it might benefit. It might have more of a benefit for Edmonton. It needs to get their mojo back.
hmm
But I also think it's good for the series and for fandom because I think they're going to be able. Both teams will be able to reboot, get some rest, and then go at it again Monday night.
Just to go back to the Stanley Cup history that you had brought
Hmm.
up earlier, Montreal Winter Carnivals,
Hmm.
uh, they were a series of winter carnivals held in Montreal in the 1880s, between 1883 to 1889. So I
Okay.
don't see anything
Okay.
about them still existing, although there's a really, really cool poster that I found on
Oh,
Wikipedia
did you?
here. Um, no, I'm not going to Wikipedia for all of my information, but they did pop up in my Google
I
search.
do know they have a really good winter carnival, and I'm sure
Ottawa, isn't it?
it's no, it's Quebec City
Quebec City?
on the
Okay.
St. Lawrence, and they have ice sculpture. They obviously play pond hockey and all that stuff. But I think that one's still going on, and that's been going on probably
That
as
one
long as the Montreal one.
I think I know the one you're talking about, and I love me some pond hockey.
Yes.
You got anything else?
I think I don't. I'm trying to think as we were talking, I'm trying to think about next week's show, but I'm not sure exactly what we're going to do yet, but we're going to have to discuss it.
We can
'Cause
discuss offline.
I got tons of ideas, so we'll certainly bring up a topic which will hopefully excite the listeners and viewers.
hmm all right. And so if we got nothing else, we'll be looking to post this within 24 hours. So I don't think I mentioned before, but this is after game two. It's Saturday night. Um, We're closing in on the start of the NBA game this evening, game two. But Dad, I know you have not watched, but I have watched a little bit of, and looking forward to see what Indiana can do in this second game.
Yeah, I
But
will be watching I'm going to watch tonight, and now that you
Oklahoma
mentioned
City
that,
carried most of game one, and I did see the end of game one. Indiana basically led the game for less than half a second,
okay,
but
I
they won.
yeah, so I think maybe our next show might have some type of an NBA,
I think we should touch on. We should talk about
an
the
NBA
NBA.
theme to it. Yes.
But we do have some other stuff actually that I think we need to touch on.
Okay.
We've already
Sounds
talked
good.
about it.
Yep. Yep.
All right. So with that being said, for Dad, I'm Matt, signing off.